Welcome to TVGOS. I'm your host Aaron, and here today I'm going to be showing you how to turn your standard HDMI output device into this. Now, a Lightpack is a USB device that plugs into your PC or Mac computer with LEDs attached to it that then wrap around your television or your monitor to display the colors being put on the screen on your desktop to the surrounding walls. Now, this is fantastic for a numerous amount of reasons here, and those are going to be that it's going to effectively enlarge your display by displaying those colors on the walls. It helps with eye strain in low light conditions, and then also it makes a kick-ass effect with your movies and your video games. So here I'm going to show you how to get that to display things that aren't shown on your computer but shown on other HDMI devices. Now before we do, keep these factors in mind here. This might be a USB device, but you cannot plug it into a Xbox or PlayStation or anything along those lines and just expect it to work. It has to use the program Prismatic to process the image displayed on your screen and shine it on the walls to the surrounding areas. So it must have that program processing this information. So it must be plugged into a computer of some sort, either a Mac or Windows. So knowing that it can only process imagery being displayed on your desktop, that leaves us to the question, how do we get our console or HDMI device to display on our desktop? Most people are very quick to suggest HD capture cards such as Elgato to do so, but that always leads to the number one biggest problem and biggest question that's always given to me. Is latency. With these HD capture cards, there's always a bit of a delay because so much data and information is being processed through that USB cord. There's always going to be a little bit of a delay, 1 to 2 second delay, which when you process that along with your game, that means those effects are going to be lagging a second or two behind, and that's going to make a very disorienting effect. So how do we get less information passing through that USB so that way we can have a lower amount of latency while still making sure we get color accuracy? Now to do so, we're going to need to use this. This is a Dazzle DVD recorder. The Dazzle DVD recorder was how most of YouTube's great famous gaming YouTubers today originally started recording their videos back in the 2007s or so when these videos first started popping up. This was the go-to Elgato capture card back in the day. This was the one that we wanted to use to record our gameplay on things such as the PlayStation 2 and the original Xbox. Now, although the Dazzle hasn't seen a software update since 2007, it still works to this day on Windows 8.1, and the driver still exists, so that way you can use it with any pre-existing video recording program, and it is still retailing nowadays on Amazon.com for $57.99. Bit of a steep price, but it's definitely worth it, and I'm going to include a link in the description as well. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. If this is in standard definition, the visual quality is going to be significantly less than that of something like an Elgato, and you are correct. But it's important to note that we need to make sure that we have color accuracy. Pixels, sharpness, a beautiful display imagery isn't going to be required in this situation, as we're not wanting to record the video. We just want to make sure that we have a preview, a live preview in real time being displayed on our desktop. So that way the program Prismatic can process that information and display it on the surrounding areas. Now, our biggest problem with the Dazzle is going to be that these devices were wanting to use output in HDMI, but the Dazzle inputs with standard RCA composite video. So we need to find a way to convert our HDMI, which is digital, into an analog composite output. This little guy right here is a solution to our problem. He will convert that digital HDMI signal into the analog RCA composite input that we're going to need on our Dazzle. He retails for $24.99 on Amazon, and again, the link is in the description. Okay, so once we have our console powered on, plugged into our converter, the converter plugged into the Dazzle, and the Dazzle to the computer, got the drivers installed, next we need a program that can process the imagery from the console itself. I personally like to use Debut. You are welcome to use other programs, but I think Debut is simple and easy to use, so it's my choice. And so, as you can see, the image quality here is not the most ideal, but what is most notably needed in showing is the colors. So we have the colors here working completely accurately. So we can see oranges are orange, reds are red. If anything, the colors are a little too saturated, which we can adjust that, but saturation is not exactly a bad idea. It helps with the bright vividness of some of the effects that we will see. I'm going to quickly show you my options to make sure that you can figure it exactly the way I have it. I have the converter set to the PAL setting, and we have it set at a format of 720 by 480, 29.97 frames per second. Stretch it to widescreen since it does record in full screen on the Dazzle. The video needs to be deinterlaced. And let me show you the device settings real quick. We're going to set that PAL B. Here are my settings. These are pretty much defaults. And then I set mine to flip vertically, as mine was flipped upside down once I plugged it in. Not sure if that'll happen to you, but just in case. So, with that, we are good to go. We have this displaying the console with very, very little latency, very minimal amount. And then we can right-click it, click it full screen, make sure we have Prismatic turned on to process the imagery, and we are good to go. Now, once you have the imagery being processed on the screen, of course you can't play your video games like that. The picture quality is too degraded, it looks bad, there is a smidge of latency that's going to be just enough to affect your aiming and things along those lines. So you want to make sure that you want to get a standard HDMI splitter, so that way you can split it off from one direction into your TV directly, and then another into our converter to our PC to process the imagery. So overall, we're going to start out with your game console or your Blu-ray player. We're going to connect that into your HDMI splitter. One end is going to go into your TV to display the image you'll be seeing and playing with. The other end is going to go into your converter. The converter is then going to convert the signal into the Dazzle. The Dazzle is going to be plugged into the computer, which is then going to process the imagery. So that's it. That's how you display your Xbox One, PlayStation, Blu-ray player, any other HDMI device with your Lightpack. It does take a little bit of extra time, effort, and money, so I know it's a bit of a hassle, but this should answer any questions. If you need help, just refer back to the chart, send me a message on Facebook, or leave a comment below. And please make sure that you do like, subscribe, leave comments, things like that. Like our page on Facebook in the description, so that way you can help us out. And if you really need an idea of what parts to use for processing this, I have the exact ones I use for this in the description below as well. So again, my name's Aaron here for TVGOS, your source for technology, video games, and other stuff. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next week.